Today we're going to talk about how to focus on and identify and fix your own errors. Because honestly, all of language learning is just one big error correction. From the very beginning, when you don't know the language at all, it's like this great big thing. That's called one big error. If I were to try to talk Portuguese and I don't know it, whatever comes out has an error in it. The whole thing's an error. Okay? And then as you start fixing the error, first you learn a word, then you learn a phrase. The things that are in between that you don't know, those are the errors. Errors are not just grammar. They can be pronunciation or using the wrong word. It can be anything that isn't like a native would speak. So our whole objective today is going to be to help us to pay attention to anything in our speech that's out of whack, that needs to be whacked. No, it needs to be put into place. And then you just go about fixing it. And when you get it fixed, it's done. You don't have to worry about it anymore. So to start out, we have taken a sampling, and now you understand why we had you talking when you were first in the room. We needed a sampling of your speech. And we have taken some phrases that you actually have said very recently. So I don't know who said them, but someone in this district said these phrases. And what we would like to do is to assign each of you one of those phrases and give you a couple of minutes to try to figure out what needs to be fixed in it. And then we'll ask you if you found it out. So we're going to go right around. We've numbered the phrases. We only put 8 up, but that's okay. We'll just go like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3. So there'll be a couple people working on some of them. Take a couple minutes. You can use your books. You can use your thoughts. You can use each other. Try not to use the experts until you've exhausted the other sources first. See if you can find out what needs to be fixed in the phrase. You've got about 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, so we just have to make a quick correction. Number 6 was actually correct.
That's called a trick question.
Wait.
Yeah, each of the numbers has one or more mistakes in it. And you.
I start to do, or like.
That's a terrible sentence.
Yeah. What is the sentence?
I start to do, I start to make. That's what it means.
Yeah, but what is it supposed to be?
Oh, we're just
What
fixing
was
that
correct?
as star, because I think that mine's conjugated.
I think mine's going to be
So Scott, if you were to make 3 a complete sentence, could you finish that so it makes sense to him?
Number 3. Oh, yeah. I figured mine out. Yeah. Oh, you're so easy. Really? I had no idea. I never knew that was a rule. Yeah. Was that conjugated?
Are we thankful for?
What were you trying to say?
I don't know.
Isn't it
Just trying to say we thank you for the opportunity to be in the NPC.
Can we move around?
Yeah, you can do whatever you got to do, hopefully within the room, to figure out the errors.
Figure it out now.
Well, it's kind of similar.
Something about investigating, they
And
love it.
Nose is that's me. Yeah. It's called me thankful for.
Maybe it's also because it's their mistakes.
It's called me opportunity. It's got to be a star.
Oh, sweet.
Agradecemos. It's like agradecemos is like we thank thee, and then she is like the formal way of you. Right? Thank you for the opportunity to be in the MTC.
Anytime, bro.
But I don't know if
We're going to give you about 30 more seconds.
no CTM would be is O. I don't know. Somos gratos.
Well, in Portuguese,
Começou a fazer.
No.
Because it's not fazer algo.
In the MTC. So it's
Well, what's the
EN plus O equals no.
I started to make nothing.
what is that? So what's
No,
the
like Kayla is 4 plus O.
See if it was past it.
I have no começo.
Do you remember from that?
So it's for the
Começo a fazer.
You mind if I?
opportunity.
Oh, sorry. Thanks. In fact, go ahead back and we're going to talk now.
Essas escrituras elas são escrituras. What's the word that
I don't know what
you
you're trying to say.
I'm trying to figure out what's
Oh, mine. You do your
How do you-
sentence. I got this.
No.
What do you got?
Remember that the possessives
What? How do you
follow
say it
the,
right?
the item being possessed, the object being possessed. They in gender and number. So the object that's being possessed, that determines what the word is being used.
Okay.
Okay. Now, Brother Rackham is now going to talk with us a little bit. I've got to go to him because you know how much I know Portuguese. But let's go around, and if you can explain how to fix it, go ahead and do it. If you're stuck a little bit, we'll help you. And then we'll talk about why we did this. All right? So let's go to number 1.
Yeah. Okay.
So do you know what it's saying here?
We are thankful for the opportunity to be.
Well, not quite. We are thinking. Do you see the verb ser in there?
No.
Okay, so
Well,
what's
she told
the
me
verb
that's what she was trying to say, so I'm trying
Okay.
to figure out how she was trying to say that. But so nos.
What's this verb?
Grateful for,
Mm,
thankful for.
to think.
To thank.
To think.
So
And,
thank thee.
yep. And then what's this?
Pela oportunidade for the opportunity, which I think is wrong.
Okay. Let's finish the rest of the meaning here. And
To
that might
be in the MTC or CTM.
Okay, so what did you think was wrong with it?
Pela, so it'd be for the opportunity. I don't think that's right because it'd be por os oportunidade, wouldn't it?
Okay,
So it'd be pay low.
okay.
Wouldn't that be right?
So you think that this is supposed to be masculine?
Yes.
Okay. Does anyone know the gender for that?
It's feminine.
It is feminine. So I'll help you out here because this is a really common mistake, a very, very common mistake that new missionaries make, but it makes a huge difference when you use it correctly. All you have to do is put a preposition on it. And I always hear it in new missionaries. They always say it without the G. For some reason, Brazilians or Portuguese speakers in Portugal as well, and other places, they always use the preposition G after oportunidade. So it's nós te agradecemos pela oportunidade de estar no CTM. For whatever reason, that's why they do it. That's how they do it.
Is that
Is that the
no?
only thing that was wrong?
No, say to him? Or is that?
No CTM.
Okay.
And that's in the.
Okay.
That's the only thing that was wrong. If you say it, if you don't say it with the G, it's not correct.
We're gonna get none of these right.
Wait, so
why
that was
is
the
it
only
no?
thing that was wrong with that?
Why is
It's a
it
very,
no?
very
set up.
common mistake. I'm sorry, it was a hard one, but it's an extremely common one, which is why I chose it.
Wait, why
I was
is
set
it? Why is the G necessary? I didn't.
That's just how
understand.
they use it. That's just what they say. Sometimes there isn't necessarily a reason.
It's almost like they're saying for the opportunity of being in the MTC.
Yes, that's a good way to
what they're
explain it.
saying.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, but I don't understand the nos chi. Because I thought it was agradecemos chi.
You can use it either way.
Oh.
Either way is fine. There's no correct way to do that.
Okay.
That's just how I do it, and you'll hear people say "chi agradecemos," like "nos chi agradecemos." You'll also hear people say "nos agradecemos."
Well, it looks weird because there's like two, like,
Parts to it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like we, you, thankful, like.
So that was a little hard one, but that was the common. That's the really, really, really common
I think
mistake.
you need to.
So let's move on to the next one. Let's move on to the next one. So who had number 2?
Me.
What did you think was wrong with it? We'll just kind of skip to that. Were you not quite sure?
No, I wasn't sure.
Okay, so whenever you use.
Does anyone else know?
Oh yeah.
It's not. It's just really you can.
It's missing, because it's, right now, I think it's saying he responds your question,
Mhm.
so it's missing the two,
Which would be.
which would be ah.
Yeah. Whenever you use the verb responder and it's a noun afterwards, you have to use the preposition a. Ele respondeu a sua pergunta. He answered his question. And that's how we would say it in English, but it's literally saying he responded to his question. But what it's meaning in English is he answered his question. What about the next one, number 3?
Well, we came to a conclusion that we think it's eu começo a fazer.
Okay.
There was a day. There needs to be like some sort of preposition like
Yeah.
after to start.
Yeah.
So you were actually right. It was começo a fazer.
It was such a
Nice.
awesome.
No.
There are verbs in Portuguese that, when combined with another verb, requires a preposition, just like we have those in English sometimes. So in Portuguese, começar with another verb always has a in between. There's no exception. So começo a fazer. Now, if it was a verb like eu começo o trabalho, I start work, then you wouldn't need it. But if it's another verb, it's a. What about this? Who had 4?
It's mine. I guess supposed to have Osh there. Yes.
Which one?
It's going faster.
Right here?
I think it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, what about the verb? Let's look at the verb. What tense is it in? Is it in present? What's the ending? Let's look at the base word. What's the base verb? What's it conjugating? What's the verb?
We don't
In
do
infinitive
Oh.
tenses.
Viajar. So
Viajar.
how did it? So what is it?
Viajam.
In the
Jam.
what's the tense here though? Is it present?
That's preterite.
That's preterite. So what's the correct? It's in what's the ending on the verb? AR, ER, IR,
They are.
AR. So what's the conjugation for AR in the
Preterite.
preterite for? So what was that? Could you repeat that, other way?
A-R-A-M.
Yeah, that's what the correct way to do it is. You got to really drill those conjugations. You got to really practice them. And Brother Steinigel has talked about the what are they called? The practice.
Pattern practice?
Well, the pattern practice. And if you just do the pattern practice over and over again, you'll remember that these endings should be that way. Okay, what about 5? Who had 5?
Eu gosto de comer.
Correct. You need that G. Same thing. If gosto or gostar is followed by another verb, you always have to have G. No exceptions. And remember, if it's followed by a noun, you still have G. So like, eu gosto de comida is the correct way to say it. Eu gosto comida is wrong. What about 6?
Does the como, is that supposed to be right there in the middle of the sentence? Because como can have several meanings. So if that's trying to say, you know how to speak Portuguese, shouldn't that be como você sabe? And probably if we're putting in a preposition like je falar português.
You're on the right track. So it is involving como. Does anyone know a little bit more about como and how to use it in the middle of the sentence, specifically in between 2 verbs?
You don't need it, do you?
You don't need it. In Portuguese, that how is implied. All you need to say is você sabe falar português, and that's 100% correct. What about 7?
That's mine. Right now it's just saying they pray to God. It needs a preposition in there. So it's els orang o Deus.
So pronounce the first 2 words again.
Well, I'm going to Portugal, so it's els orang o Deus.
Yeah, but even in Portugal, it's oram,
Oh, orang.
oram,
Okay.
and then what was the preposition you said?
Oh,
O Deus.
I think so.
Is O an article or a preposition? Does anyone else know? It's an article. So what would be the preposition? We used it a couple times already.
Okay.
Exactly. Oram a Deus, but you can also use a different preposition, which is para. You can use para. A o para. Okay. 8.
It needed ash escrituras, right? For the scriptures. It needed AS before the escrituras.
Okay. So yeah, I'd say that's
And then it's precisan, right?
precision. Yes.
Precisan.
Remember, where do you put the emphasis on words in most cases? Second to last. So pronounce that one more time, but emphasizing this.
Precisan.
Precision.
Precisan.
And remember, S in between 2 vowels,
Precision.
well, it needs, what sound does it make? The Z sound.
Precisan.
Precision.
Precisan.
Yep.
Okay. Well, that was interesting, wasn't it? Tell me your impressions. Was this good for you, or was it
Yeah, it was good.
was it a drag? You wish you never had to do this again. I mean, it sort of brought your errors out into the open, and that can be sort of like, oh, yeah, they may go, wow, I'm making mistakes. And I'm thinking, are you kidding? You're talking Portuguese after 2 weeks? I mean, this is great. But why is it helpful? I'm assuming it is, and yes, it is. Why is it helpful to focus on the things that still need to be fixed?
Shows us what we need to work on.
Yeah. And this is your own phrases. These are things that came from you, and so they're very personal, things that you've wanted very recently to say. If you continue to target your errors, eventually there won't be any more, or you'll be hard to find. Trust me.